Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka, and on here is text number 15, which I'm just going to read the translation for, because there's no purport. While the Lord was departing from the palace of Hastinapura, different types of drums like the mridanga, dola, nagra, dunduri, and dundubi, and flutes of different types, the veena, gomukha, and biri, all sounded together to show him honor. Text 16. Prasade shika raruda kuru naryo didrikshaya vavrishu kusamai krishnam prema vrida smitekshana prasada shikararuda kurunaryo didrikshaya vavrishu kusamai krishnam prema vrida samitekshana. Urunara virikshaya Vishuna kusamai krishnam prema vrida samikshana Hara shikararuda Guru naryo dirikshaya Vashu kusamai krishnam prema vrida samikshana prasada prasada prasada. It's almost like prasadam, but palace. Shikara, the roof. Aruda, ascending. Kuru, Narya, the ladies of the Kuru royalty. Didrikshaya, sing. Vavrishu, showered. Kusumai, by flowers. Krishnam, unto Lord Krishna. Prema, out of affection and love. Rida, Smita, Ikshana, glancing with shy smiles. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Out of loving desire to see the Lord, the royal ladies of the Kurus got up on the top of the palace, smiling with affection and shyness. They showered flowers upon the Lord. Purport. Shyness is a particular extra natural beauty of the fair sex, and it commands respect from the opposite sex. This custom was observed even during the days of the Mahabharata. Example, more than 5,000 years ago. It is only the less intelligent persons, not versed in the history of the world, who say that observance of separation of female from male is an introduction of the Mohammedan period in India. This incident from the Mahabharata period proves definitely that the ladies of the palace observed strict prada, restricted association with men. Instead of coming down in the open air where Lord Krishna and others were assembled, the ladies of the palace went up on the top of the palace and from there paid their respects to Lord Krishna by showers of flowers. It is definitely stated here that the ladies were smiling there on the top of the palace, checked by shyness. This shyness is a gift of nature to the fair sex, and it enhances their beauty and prestige, even if they are of a less important family, or even if they are less attractive. We have practical experience of this fact. A sweeper woman commanded the respect of many respectable gentlemen simply by manifesting a lady's shyness. Half-naked ladies in the streets do not command any respect, but a shy sweeper's wife commands respect from all. Human civilization is conceived by the sages of India is to help one free himself from the clutches of illusion. The material beauty of a woman is an illusion because actually the body is made of earth, water, fire, air, etc. But because there is an association of the living spark with matter, it appears to be beautiful. No one is attracted by an earthen doll, even if it is most perfectly prepared to attract the attention of others. The dead body has no beauty because no one will accept the dead body of a so-called beautiful woman. Therefore, the conclusion is that the spiritual spark is beautiful, and because of the soul's beauty, one is attracted by the beauty of the outward body. The Vedic wisdom therefore forbids us to be attracted by false beauty. But because we are now in the darkness of ignorance, the Vedic civilization allows very restricted mixing of woman and man. They say that the woman is considered to be fire and the man is considered to be the butter. The butter must melt in association with fire, and therefore they must be brought together only when it is necessary. And shyness is a check to the unrestricted mixing. It is nature's gift and it must be utilized. Prasada sikararuda kuru naryo dirikshaya vavrishu kusamai krishnam prema rida samekshanaha. Out of loving desire to see the Lord, the royal ladies of the Kurus got up on the top of the palace, and smiling with affection and shyness, they showered flowers upon the Lord. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimad Bhagavatam Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Siddharne. In the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was asking Krishna which is better, in personal realization or devotional service. And Krishna gives his explanation, and in the middle he says, Mayeva manad adatsva, mayi buddhim nisheshaya, eva shishashimam eva ato urvam nasamshaya. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you'll live with me always without any doubt. Or as Prabhupada writes in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, that we actually don't work with our body, we work with our mind and intelligence. In other words, the soul has only the capacity to desire. But that desire is his working. But desire means that he's interfacing with the mind and material or spiritual, depends on what he's hearing, material mind or spiritual mind and intelligence. And as a result of that, he's manifesting by his desire. When he dovetails his desires with the modes of material nature, then material activities are manifested by the material energy, of course. Purusha, Prakriti, Sohi, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Ubhavapi, that the material nature is the cause of all material activities and effects, where the living entity is the cause of the different sufferings and enjoyments in the material world. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Ubhavapi Ikaram Chaiva Vidi Prakriti Sambhava. In other words, what kind of experience we're going to have in the material world depends upon what kind of mode of material nature we're attracted to. And what kind of experience we're going to have on the spiritual platform depends upon what kind of spiritual energy we're attracted to. And there's endless varieties of these things. Now the material world is manifested as Pumsa Striya Maituni Bhavametam Tura Midya Granti Mahu Ato Griya Kshetra Sutapta Vitera Janasya Moho Yam Ahamameti. Out of ahamameti, false ego, then one thinks aham purusha or aham prakriti. Purusham prakriti, so he. One or the other. I am the enjoyer or I am being enjoyed. Pumsa striya. So there's man, there's striya. Striya means that which expands. So if there's someone wanting to enjoy the material world, then his entanglement in the material world will expand, principally through striya, through the attraction for a woman, and woman will want to expand. Pumsa striya maituni bhavam etam. This connection between them, the feeling that I am the enjoyer, I am going to utilize the enjoyer to expand. This is the combination, maituni, sex desire. This is the whole idea. So sex may appear to be very attractive to the conditioned soul, that there's someone to lord it over. The amount of pleasure one gets from the sex act itself is rather insignificant, tuchavat. But the feeling that I am lording it over, I am controlling the material nature, is the main satisfaction in material existence, that I'm actually in control of something. Everything else is out of my control. I can't control the sun and the moon. I can't even control my own mind. But at least I have this feeling I'm controlling something. I'm contributing something to making this world the way I want it to be. And as a result of that, Pumsa Striya Maituni Bhavami Torora Ridya Grantim Ahu. They both get this knot within the heart, Grantim, that she loves me or he loves me, and we're going to create our kingdom on this earth. Our house will be Vaikuntha, our children will be our expansions, plenary and partial. Those intelligent children will be our plenary expansions, and the fools and rascals will be our partial expansions. And so many different things. My car is my Garuda. It takes me from my 3 different kingdoms. So it's a whole imagination. Ato, griha. So there has to be a house, kshetra, land, atta, tapta, children, vitara, wealth, to create this illusion. But the whole illusion is that I'm the controller. Ishvaraham, aham bhogi, siddhaham balavan sukhi. And I'm enjoying those things that I'm controlling. But actually no one is a controller. Everyone is a servant. Everyone is claiming to be a servant. The man claims to the woman, I will serve you, I will provide everything you want. And the woman says, I will serve you, I'll give you whatever you want. And they're both thinking, I'll get whatever I want through you. No one is, but everyone is actually just servants ultimately the material world of their senses. But still we have something to learn from properly utilizing our position, as explained here, that the mind is supposed to be receptive. Therefore it says in the Bhagavatam, the mind is originally in the mode of goodness. It's receptive, it's pure originally. But when it's in contact with perverted intelligence, it becomes contaminated by material desires. When the pure intelligence doesn't check the pure mind and bring it to Krishna consciousness, then these contaminated intelligence, hearing, what does it hear? It hears the wonders of sense gratification, that we can have an eternal life full of unlimited happiness through a life of unlimited sense gratification. In other words, that's considered by the Bhagavatam to be hearing in the mode of ignorance. Therefore it says, Nunam pramata kurute vikarma. It's indeed, Maharaja Shabdev is surprised that anyone could be so foolish as to take the external material intelligence seriously. Nunam pramatak. To hear from crazy, mad people about how to become happy in the material world, as I said yesterday, or the day before yesterday, it's like reading a book from a person who's on the street and is poverty-stricken, and he's writing a book about how to make $1 million in 3 weeks, and he's living on the street. Who will waste his money by buying such a book? Some people will do that because they're pramatak, they're mad, they're crazy. They can't see this person suffering worse than I am, and yet he's going to teach me how to become happy in this world. He has this plan in this temporary material world to become happy through sense gratification, basically through expanding our material involvement, through striya and pumsa getting together and creating this combination by sex desire, tuchavat. Yanmai tunaidi grihamedi sukham hitucha kanduryanena korya iva dukkha dukkam. Prahlad Maharaj said it's like the rubbing of two hands together to relieve this itching sensation. How much happiness if you do actually get from itching something, scratching the itch? So that's material existence. It's simply scratching the itch, and they're writing poetry about it, they're writing novels about it, they're making movies about it, how to scratch the itch. And the result is simply material entanglement. Therefore, men have to be trained what is their position, and women have to be trained what's their position. That training is the same thing as training our minds and our intelligence. Now the man is supposed to have intelligence that to get involved in sense gratification, involving the mind by my material conceptions in sense gratification, making that my goal of life, chintyam aparayam cha pralayantam upashitya kama paboga paramam etavam iti nischita ashapashishiterabhada kama kroda parayana ihanti kama bogartan anyanarta sanchaya. They believe, and who's they? The demons, they believe. Demons, asuras. Asura means that who follows the instructions of the Vedas. And asura is one who's against the authority of the Vedas. So the Vedas say, utilize the senses following the directions of Krishna. And the asuras say, utilize the senses for sense gratification, to gratify them as the goal of life. And they say like that that's the goal. Chintyam aparayam cha pralayantam, up until the point of death, to gratify the senses. There's no other purpose of life. They believe that to gratify the senses unto the end of life is the prime necessity of human civilization, and therefore there's no measurement to their anxieties. Look at this wonderful modern society where people don't even have any land anymore to cultivate and grow food. They have to depend on the grocery store. They have to depend on all these trucks. They have to depend upon all this fuel and so many different things. They have so dependent on everything. Material. A little bit of a problem and we starve to death. And they think that's progress. But all they're progressing is their anxiety. Creating a humbug civilization simply meant to put people more and more in anxiety. And being bewildered by hundreds and thousands of desires, by lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. So it's all illegal. The society is based upon selling of drugs, whether prescription drugs or just illegal drugs, so-called illegal. It's all illegal drugs, most of it. Illicit sex, prostitution, trafficking of children becomes very important nowadays. Slavery. Gambling, stealing people's money. The lottery and these casinos are all over the world now. Stealing people's money with the hope that they're going to gain something, and they lose everything. And intoxication, of course. Because people have so much anxiety, their only relief is intoxication. And they think that's progress. Although the aim of life is to get free, but what is the mentality? What is the mentality of the people who say men and women should mix unrestrictedly? Because they want unrestricted sense gratification. They think that will make them happy. And what is it? What is the manifestation of it? What is the seed? How does it express itself outwardly? Idam adya maya labdva imam prapse manoritam. Idam astiyam apime pravishati punardanam. Asamaya hatakshatro hanishe chapuranapi ishvaraham hambogi siraham balavan sukhi. Adyo bijandavanasmi kaunosti sadrishamaya yakshedas yami modisha ityagana vimohita. So much wealth do I have, and I'll gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine, and I'll gain more and more in the future. So this accumulation of wealth and power and prestige, whatever, this is the first symptom. One cannot, if one has no money, he's considered to be useless nowadays. Doesn't matter how cultured, how much knowledge they have, real spiritual knowledge, but without money and power and prestige, one is considered to be a useless eater. And how is it manifested? Because there's supposedly limited resources, because material nature will not provide to the demons very abundantly. Therefore they fight with each other, enemies, adyom, asomaya takshatra. So many enemies are created. The real enemy, Prahlad Maharaj said, is our uncontrolled mind, which is due to our uncontrolled desires, which are due to our unwillingness to accept the instructions, Shastra, which means to control. Shastra means to control, give us intelligence how to control our unrestricted mind, which manifests itself as unrestricted material desires. We want to see something to gratify our desires. We want to hear something to gratify our material desires. We want to taste something to gratify it's all unrestricted desires. And then we have to kill our enemies. We have to get rid of our enemies. But the real enemy we never get rid of. Lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, and madness. These are the things we're cultivating. But these are our real enemies. We're taking our enemies. Therefore, when men tell women, you're free to mix, you're just equal to us, Prabhupada made it very clear. What they're really saying is, let me exploit you, have as much sense gratification with you as possible, and if you get pregnant, I spit you out and go away because you're liberated. Take care of yourself. I have no responsibility. And foolish women, because they're less intelligent, they go along with it, and then they get burnt by the unscrupulous men, and the society turns into varna samskara, varna sankara, and the whole society goes to hell, which we can see right now as a practical example of modern society. No shastra, vite, vidu, swartikati. They don't know the goal is to reach Krishna. They don't know, their goal is just sense gratification. And they elect fools and rascals who promise to gratify their senses and steal all their money, all their resources for their own gratification. In Bolivia, I don't know what's going on there now, but they had like in 50 years, they had like 57, something like that, different presidents. Because every time someone would become a president in Bolivia, they gather all the remaining resources that the last person didn't steal, and they take them and steal them and run away. So Prabhupada said that organized crime in modern society means the government. And the fools and rascals elect such fools and rascals as their leaders. Kali, dressed as a king. Who doesn't know they're supposed to protect the cows, they're supposed to protect the women, they're supposed to protect the old people, they're supposed to protect the people who are diseased. From what? Evam param param praptam imam rajarshyo vidu sakleniha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. They're supposed to protect them from lust, anger, greed, envy. That's what the ruler, whoever it may be, whether it be the Gurur nasasyat, swajano nasasyat, pita nasasyat, swajano nasasyat, daivam nasasyat, pita nasasyat, namochita yaksamupeti mutyum. One should not become a father, a mother, a relative. One should not become a worshipful deity, a person who's worshipped, a leader. One should not become a husband unless he's prepared to deliver his dependents from birth and death, which means to protect them from lust, anger, and greed by engaging them in Krishna's service. Follow the Vedic injunctions. And the most basic thing here is keep the men and women separated. As much as only when necessary, they should come together. Otherwise, there'll be trouble. Now, not only externally they're supposed to be separated, but that's to help us internally separate them. It says that men fall in love with women not when they're with them, because then they can see what they actually look like. When they take their makeup off and see what they look like, it's not always so attractive. They have to paint themselves up a lot of times. But, so, when we're separated, when men are separated from women, then they sometimes become more attracted because they hallucinate that there's actually something that's worthy to sacrifice one's spiritual life for, to go to hell for. Therefore, one subtly becomes attractive, which is much more intense than externally, because externally everything becomes clear after some time, that this body is not divine. But internally, this mental image could actually appear to be almost divine. It's more subtle. Therefore, one becomes more attached. So unless one can control his mind, which is what was meant to the brahmachari guru kule, vasandanta guru hitam, Achavan Vasanam Nicho Sudra Guru Surida Saurida. That the brahmachari should live in the house of the spiritual master and he should control his mind and senses. Try to restrain from unrestricted, uncontrolled sense gratification, even when it's separated from women. Not eat too much or eat too little, sleep too much, sleep too little. Control these habits, regulate them, and engage in Krishna's service. That's how they're regulated and controlled. Then one can learn then when women are separated and they become submissive and follow the instructions, the men can learn from women how they also should be submissive, but to who? Not to the women desires for sense gratification. They should become submissive to the instructions of the higher authorities. If they're the higher authority for the woman, they have to be higher authority for the guru. And the guru has to be submissive to the parampara and ultimately to Krishna. Therefore, when the husband gives instructions to his wife to perform religious activities, he doesn't think, now I become the lord of my wife. He does so as a servant of his spiritual master in parampara. Or as Prabhupada said, the spiritual master, whoever, whether it be the father and the mother, the worshipful deity, the guru, whatever, the spiritual master, trying to help the dependent, he knows it's not his knowledge. He knows it's all coming from Krishna through disciple succession, because he identifies himself as a servant of the spiritual master. Therefore, the spiritual master in disciple succession is there, along with the disciple succession, and the super soul brings them all together, because he's the one who provides them remembrance. He brings the spiritual master because that's what the disciple wants. He wants to be a servant of his spiritual master. So the super soul manifests himself as the spiritual master and gives the instructions through the spiritual master what to tell the disciple. So when the disciple hears the bona fide instructions from the representative of the disciple succession, when the spiritual master sees his followers and disciples carrying out those instructions, he knows it's not his instructions. He's simply acting as a humble servant of his spiritual master. And therefore, when he sees his disciples and followers carrying out those instructions, he learns from them how to become a better servant of his spiritual master. He doesn't think, now I become the Lord. He thinks, now I become simply I'm learning how to become a better servant of my spiritual master by seeing the example of my disciples and followers. That way one can act simultaneously as a so-called instructor and simultaneously as a learner. Unless one takes both positions, instructor is a servant, and therefore the spiritual master is called servant Krishna. What is that? Servant controller or something. But he controls simply as a servant, as a representative of his spiritual master, and he learns from others who are obeying how to become a better servant master also. Without that, then one is simply impelled to unrestricted engagement with the illusory energy, becoming more and more involved until one reaches the lower species of life, or as Prabhupada was saying one lecture I was hearing today, he becomes a butterfly. And he can manifest it so many beautiful. He thinks, now butterflies don't need makeup, they're naturally very beautiful, but they're butterflies. So we can come to that position if we want. Unless we take seriously our relationship with Krishna and with his representatives, and we take the proper attitude in all the dealings what we have, then we'll get ourselves in trouble. So nowadays, we have so many good examples within our society and so many bad examples also. So we should try to understand what the good examples are and try to understand what the bad examples are so that we don't fall into following the bad examples, but we follow the good ones. And leave the bad, Krishna will take care of the bad examples. Material nature's, no one gets away with anything in this material world. Everyone is a servant of Krishna. Therefore the bad examples are there because Krishna's allowed them to be there, and the good examples are there because Krishna wants them to be there too. But ultimately the bad examples, like Duryodhana and others, get vanquished, and the good examples make progress and go back to the spiritual world and become victorious. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partha Dinardara, Tatra Shir Vidayo Bhutir, Dhruva Mitir Matir Mama. Wherever there's Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna who's Yogeshwara, the supreme mystic, and wherever is Arjuna who holds the bow, there'll certainly be opulence, victory, morality, and extraordinary power. That's Sanjaya's opinion. And I trust Sanjaya. Okay, I'll stop there. Any questions?
Hare Krishna, thank you. Sure. You mentioned that if someone, nobody, if someone have knowledge, it's not useful for this company. So if someone who has spiritual knowledge become wealthy and fame, they will listen to him, or there will not be any results in Krishna consciousness?
Well, it depends why they're getting, if they're using their energies. I mean, we have Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who was extremely wealthy, seemingly Marjudas here, but he utilized it in Krishna's service. He didn't think, this is mine. He didn't have that mentality, Ishvaraham aham bhogi, with so much is mine, I'll get more in the future. He got yadrichaya lavashantusto dvanvatito vimatsaraha. One who's satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who's free from duality, does not envy, is never entangled although performing action. So this desire to gain more and more for our sense gratification, gross or subtle, that's dangerous. Then we can't chant Hare Krishna with feeling according to Srimati Kunti Devi. But to gain things and then utilize them for Krishna service, like Maharaj Yudhisthira did, Pundarik Vidyaditi, and other great Ambarish Maharaj, that's what wealth is meant for. We're not against wealth. We want wealth to be utilized in Krishna service. Lakshmi should be with Narayan. We shouldn't separate them. Anything else? Hvala, Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ki Jai.